Man, what a difference a year can make as Sean Payton ends the Denver Broncos season with the massivest flex of confidence that we've seen. I got to remind you, the last time that he flexed and was overly confident, he completely outplayed all expectations for this team. So we're going to talk about what this confidence going into the offseason really could result in when it comes to trades, free agents, and the NFL draft. We're going to break all that down and more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me out a ton if you would like and subscribe. So starting off, just like from an optics standpoint, you remember last year's postseason press conference, you had a panel of dudes. And that is the ultimate sign if you've worked in corporate worlds or in any like bureaucratic institution. When your organization is not confident in what it's doing, they have as many officials at the table as possible to deflect and to be like, oh, well, let George get that question. Oh, let me start that. And then Sean, you can finish it. It's just, it's like me and my wife and I, when we have to have a hard conversation with one of our kids, and we have no idea what we're doing. We're just making crap up. We're like, hey, Judah, come on in here. Your mom and I have something to talk to you about. We're just making it up as we go. And you just see the huge flip of the script here of you have all three of those guys not in a panel because they are confident in what they have done. And so they are up there standing and delivering like confident in what this season has been and what it is going forward. All of them said not just that they're confident that next year we're going to make the playoffs, they all said we're playing to win the division. And actually two of them said that if we had beat Buffalo, which we didn't, they all felt very confident that we were going to beat the Chiefs next week and liked our game plan against them even more. And so you just see this confidence brimming here that we are closer than anyone thinks. And then Mike Kliss had the audacity, and I love Kliss, to ask him about the outside noise and how he responds to the outside noise and the fact that the Broncos were better than they thought. And Sean Payton like stops him in his track and he said, wait, are we talking about your expectations or ours? Because I do not give a care whatsoever about your expectations, respectfully. And anytime you have to say respectfully, it's not respectful, okay? He wasn't respectful, but he's not interested in that. He pays zero attention to it. He truly believes that this team is just a few players away. And so knowing that this team is coming in here, knowing that they have everything figured out when you have that coach quarterback combination, knowing that Bo Nix is just going to continue to get better, knowing that like Bo Nix is him, he's a leader of men, and then he's also a workaholic. That Sean Payton said that Bo Nix was in his office 2 days this week for multiple hours, just like talking, ending the season. They have an entire calendar planned of what they're doing this offseason. George Payton made a joke that Bo Nix actually needs to leave and force himself to go on a vacation because he works too hard. He works through back injuries. Like, we have that locked up, and we are a playoff team with that, with the third youngest team in football. And so all of this confidence just lets you know that the Denver Broncos are going to make a splash this offseason because they aren't an overhaul away. They don't need to reset this thing. They truly are a few pieces away from going from a playoff maker to a playoff and Super Bowl contender. And I think they feel that. You hear that in what they're saying. And so whether or not you believe them, that's up to you. The last time people didn't believe Sean Payton, he outwon their win total by 5 games. So I say doubt Sean Payton at your own risk, and you're going to end up having a very red face because Sean Payton overachieves all of our expectations. So here we are. We are going into this offseason in top 10 in cap space, $52 million in cap space. We've seen this organization go out and spend, and one of the ways that you can kind of work around the cap is if you have a very cash-heavy owner. We have the owner, the Walmart owner, who literally has as much money as anyone in all of American sports, the richest owner in sports. And so as Trevor Judge points this out on Twitter, this really, really does help us out when we want to make a big splash, because not only are we top 10 in cap space, but we have as much cash as you want. And what you can do then is that you can front load a deal with a new person in cash, and then the cap hit on that gets kicked down the can when we are off of the Russell Wilson deal. So we're already in good shape, and then that good shape becomes even better because we can kick that can down the road. So just a fantastic situation. So as you look at the holes the Broncos need, that we are only a few pieces away from being a multiple playoff game winner, being a division winner, and really what are we going to prioritize in the draft, and what are we going to prioritize in free agency? And that's what's, you got to love that we got Sean Payton and George Payton making that decision to evaluate the draft and be like, we feel like we can get a really good tight end in the 3rd round, or a really good tight end with that first pick, but we're not seeing a wide receiver who could make a difference, or we're not seeing the running back who could make the difference. if the Broncos are going to make a splash on the wide receiver market, you have a couple wide receivers who could definitely make a difference here. And I think T. Higgins is the one that jumps out on a lot of our wish lists as Broncos fans. And there's that incredible picture of Bo Nix, who has no connection with T. Higgins, after the Cincinnati game, talking with his mouth covered with T. Higgins. And why else are you doing that unless you're like, can't wait to be throwing you the ball next year? And who knows, maybe it was they were talking about their favorite Christian worship music, which would be awesome if it was like Newsboys or DC Talk. Holler at your boy. But I think like that connection is there, and the Denver Broncos could do something in a way where they give him the bulk of his deal as a free agent in cash, and it doesn't hurt our cap that much. Other ones that could be really interesting would be Chris Godwin out of Tampa Bay. But then these are the ones that are really interesting here, is that there are probably some wide receivers who are high-priced dudes who the team doesn't want anymore, like a Deebo Samuel, which could be wild that the Broncos could get because he's cut. Or a lot of time trades happen very early on in the month of March when a team knows that that's not a fit anymore for the team. Like Mixon, who's now running out of his mind with the Texan, was traded in March. Mac Jones was traded in March. Keenan Allen was traded in March. So we could see the Broncos make a trade for Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf. Like, how wild would that be? We heard already rumors in this offseason that Cooper Kupp was up for trade, and Sean McVay wanted to get rid of Cooper Kupp. And so you could see a world where those things could happen. And so there's a lot of talk all over Twitter here. ML Football put out, would the Denver Broncos trade a first-round draft pick and a fifth-round draft pick for Garrett Wilson? And I think all of us would be like, sign me up. That does mean that you're not ending up getting Tyler Warren, that tight end out of Penn State that you would want, because you don't have that first-round draft pick. But, man, to get Garrett Wilson and pair him with Courtland Sutton, that would be absolutely sick. So that'll be something interesting to watch. Other options here that we look at, and as this team is deciding, like, hey, are we going to prioritize adding talent through free agency or the draft? What's our better bang for our buck? Like picking a tight end out of free agency or picking one out of the draft could be interesting here to see. Zach Ertz is popping off, but man, an older one. Which one of these free agent tight ends could somehow the Broncos end up with, who could maybe play that joker role? And none of them are looking that great. And here's another one, same names that we heard floated during NFL free agency or the trip before the trade deadline, again, Kyle Pitts. So I just think that the Denver Broncos are walking into this offseason with an insane amount of confidence because they know they are a few players away, and that's going to be what makes this month and these couple months leading up to the NFL draft wildly exciting, because truly anything is possible, and we are just a few players away. So if the Denver Broncos were to make a splash and trade for somebody, who would you want it to be? What position would you want to see us go out and get in the trade? And then which one from another NFL franchise, and which position should we be prioritizing in through the draft? Either way, we've got a ton to be excited about, and let's just be like half as confident as Sean Payton, and then we'll be able to run through that wall. We got a ton to Bo-LIEVE in.